Wait. Hello, everybody, and welcome in to day number 2 of Hans Against the World, the London edition, where he is playing against Nikita. Welcome. I'm very sorry. We tried our absolute best, but the cameras could not be set up today. It was very unfortunate. We were trying to get it work, but it was really just nothing was working. But at least we are here. We have the boards live. We have the game live. And I hope today that it'll be a nice result again for Hans. On the first day, he did very well. He got a win with the black pieces and then a draw with the white pieces. So had very good results for the first day, and we hope to see something similar today. Welcome in to everybody who is watching from the Twitch chat and from the YouTube chat. My name is Hannah. I've done some commentary here for Hans before, so you may know me, you may not, but welcome in to everybody that is watching. So we have only just started, so fortunately we have not missed too much, and we're in the classical section, so it shouldn't be too fast-paced, hopefully not too intense, but we have started off with a Berlin defense today. So I'll quickly show you guys through the moves of what has happened so far. Yes, if we do get the cam working, I do have so we've got a Zoom link up. So if the cam is working at any point, I've got a new overlay to switch to where my cam is a lot smaller and we'll instead see Hans's cam. So hopefully we can get that working. At any point when it is working, then that'll be great. But for now, we are just going to have the boards. And so here we have started off with e4, e5, knight f3, attacking the pawn, knight c6, defending, and then we've had bishop e5, Aurora Lopez. My arrows are not on point here today, but we have Aurora Lopez opening, very popular, and here Hans plays the very ultra solid Berlin defense. We have castles, knight takes e4, rook to e1, and then this knight comes back to d6. So they're attacking the bishop that's on the b5 square. It is possible to capture here. There are a lot of moves that you can play, but yes, the most popular move is to capture. But what is played here? Let me check. What is played here? No, it looks like we are only up to this move so far in the opening. So we haven't had too much happening yet. So my rating is not very high. I'm not the strongest player, so I'll do my very best to analyze, but it may not be the best at some points. But I am 2200 online and 1800 FIDE. Okay, I might get some music going in the background, just some very soft music, just so we have a little bit of a soundtrack to this. Hello, welcome into everybody who is watching. So yes, this is day number 2 of the very big event for Hans Niemann versus the world in the London edition. I'm super excited to see this game today. He's got the black pieces. He had a great result yesterday where he had the black pieces, but in that opening, White was playing d4. White was playing d4, and I checked, just as in preparation for my commentary today, I did check what openings that Nikita was playing in general, and I did notice that pretty much most of his games that I could find were either d4 or c4. And in the first game, we had Hans playing a Nimzo-Indian defense, and he played a super awesome game. It was a Rubinstein Nimzo-Indian. But today we have gotten an e4 game. So yeah, this is a little bit different. I'm sure that, you know, like all strong GMs, Nikita will be happy and comfortable to play anything. But e4 is different from the first game, so it'll be exciting to see if something different happens. Now, the Berlin does have a reputation for being super duper solid, and also for going into a lot of draws. A lot of people will have seen the classic Berlin draw, and there's many lines where people just say it's like the Berlin Wall, it's impossible to take it down, there is no way to escape a draw. So maybe Hans is playing for a draw in this first game today, but also it can lead to some really nice complex endgames, so really interesting ones to watch. I know for certain that I could learn a lot from it because my endgames need a lot of work. So I think this will be exciting if we go down into an endgame. There's still a lot to play for, despite how often there are draws between GMs. We just bought as much. Yeah, there is a lot of technical difficulties that we're suffering today. So At the moment, I think the only working board is the Lichess board. And we'll see if, I don't think the chess.com board is working. So we're just working with what we have here. And yeah, at the moment, I think this is the current position, although the time appears not to be ticking down. So I'm going to just refresh the page and see what happens here. Okay. Oh, yes. Wait. Oh no, I think the DGT board is messed up. Oh no. All the technical difficulties that could go wrong. Yeah, because I sincerely doubt that white played queen to e1 here. I really doubt that, but I hope the board gets fixed soon. We'll have a little look. Yeah, I doubt that this super grandmaster played a Botez Gambit on move 10. That's all I will say. Okay. I will quickly go through what has happened in the meantime. It seems like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but let's see. We have knight takes e5, bishop e7. This bishop goes back to the f1 square, captures, and then black is castling. Then we have d4. So this is all known theory. So this is what grandmasters tend to do. They play a lot of moves that they know very, very well. This has been played in over a thousand master games already. This this position has been reached, yeah, in over 1,000, almost 2,000 master games already. Hans plays bishop to f6, attacking the rook, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. And then this rook goes all the way back to e1. It might feel silly to go all the way back to e1, but there's really no other square where it makes a lot of sense to place this rook on, because otherwise Hans can just attack it with his pieces if it stays towards the center. And then we have rook to e8, contesting the e file. The bishop now comes out to f4, and still there are 240 games in this position, so still there is a lot of master games here. Yeah, there is a transmission error. Hopefully that gets fixed up soon. And now we have rook to e6 by Hans. Now this is a very wait, is this actually, no, this isn't rook to e6. You know what I think is being played? Rook takes e1, queen takes e1, because we've seen rook e6, rook e2, rook takes, queen takes. So what I think would have actually happened here is rook takes e1, queen takes e1. Because yeah, I really hope that they fix up the board soon, because this could be a big problem if this isn't fixed. But this is the position that they probably have right now. They've traded off one pair of knights and also one pair of rooks. So here some trades are already being made, and as you can see, it's not a very aggressive looking position, you know. This piece is tucked behind here, this light square bishop, you know, it seems very solid at the moment. So both sides will probably just focus on some slow maneuvering, getting their pieces to better positions, but it's not going to be a really tactical game like the one that we saw yesterday where Hans had the black pieces. That Nimzo game just got super tactical, super fast. Now, it is Hans's turn to move, and what has happened in 93% of master games is that this knight has moved to the e8 square. And this does make sense. We're trying to take it back to e8, and then we're going to push the d5 pawn, because at the moment white has a bit of control in the center. They have this pawn on d4, and now we go back to e8. After something like c3, we can push forward with d5 and then take some space in the center. Now, what should I look at here? Now, what if you just take this pawn over here? What if you take this pawn? It's not so bad, but you're going to end up with some double pawns on the d file. So probably black is never going to play for a win here. They've just got these double pawns. It's not so fun to play with doubled isolated queen pawns. Definitely not fun to play with. So taking here would not be the way to go. Instead, we would go backwards to e8, and we stop the black bishop from taking here. They stop the black bishop from taking here because the bishop has just come out to f8. It's threatening to take and damage the pawn structure. So first Hans is going to play this forcing move, trading off the rooks, and then reroute the knight, plan to push the d5 pawn. And yeah, after this is played, then you must defend this pawn. Then you must defend this pawn. Some funny messages in the YouTube chat. Okay. It's like 8 p.m. in Australia. Yes, it is. It is going to be some late night games here in Australia. I'm from Australia. Um, so yes, I will probably be commentating for the first game, and then after this, we're going to be joined by Agne, who is going to be commentating for the second game. And game is different from the leeches. Well, let's hope. I'm not sure what is happening here. I think there was some error. So the reason why it is currently showing this position is because there is error with the DGT board. Because here it is definitely not played like this. This is not what has happened. So I'm just trying to guess what has actually happened, and I assume they trade the rooks here. Because there was clearly some issues with the DGT board transmission. Yes, I'm very excited to be commentating here. I really hope we can get this fixed. The unfortunate thing is that we have no cams as well, no player cams. So that means that I can't actually just go off what is happening on the camera as well. What's my ACF? I actually don't know. I think my ACF is somewhere around 1850, but I'm not so sure, Adam. I'm not so sure. Okay. But yes, in the meantime, I guess we'll wait until the boards are fixed. I put on some music in the background. Let me know if you can hear it okay. I think it's very, very quiet, just to not be distracted. All right, and okay, in the meantime, we can maybe we can make a prediction for what we think the result will be today. So in the Twitch chat, maybe in the YouTube chat as well. I'm not sure if we can do predictions over there, but if we can maybe have a prediction for what we think the result will be today, whether it will be a win. Let's just do a prediction for this game, maybe. Thank you, everyone. Can't hear the music, it's very quiet. Okay, I put it up a little bit. It's just going to be background. It's looking like a draw, isn't it? The way that they've gone straight into this Berlin defense. I mean, Hans always plays the Berlin. And I know that some people or some grandmasters might be like, oh, playing the Berlin, it's so boring, it's just playing for a draw. But, you know, of course, there's lots of really great wins that we've seen with the Berlin also. And it's really the best way to play against the Ruy Lopez. So we may see a draw, but we may also see a win. So that could be awesome. I see you're a moderator. Okay, yes, sure. I can set up a prediction over there. Explain bishop d4. So I quickly talked about bishop d4 here before. So when this bishop has come out to f4, it's threatening to capture the knight that's on d6 and double the pawns in the center, and then leave you with two stacked, isolated pawns. So if you capture here on d4, you can take this pawn, but then white is going to take on d6. And then after the pawn takes, white can just play knight to c3. And then after this, yes, you may have the bishop pair, you may have an extra pawn, but these pawns here are really going to be a big liability. Firstly, it's really hard to push forward with d5 because it's hard to gain control of the square. Like maybe you need to at some point play b6 or something like that. You have to try and work out a way to sort of push forward these pawns, because otherwise this pawn on d7 is forever blocking things and it's forever a liability. It's not great. Oh, were you thinking we could take on b2? Okay, so after takes, to take on b2 would be interesting. Now I'm trying to think of what would happen here. So if takes on b2, there's probably something obvious here. I think there must be an obvious reason why we can't play this. I'm trying to think. Well, okay, there's bishop takes c7. That's what I'm thinking. If bishop takes b2, bishop takes c7, and then if the queen takes, there's going to be a checkmate down on e8. So if bishop takes b2, bishop takes c7, the queen has to move somewhere. So obviously, if you take this bishop, then there is a checkmate down here with queen e8. So then instead, the queen has to make a move over here. And then you can actually just give up the rook on a1 by playing knight c3. So it's very interesting here. But basically, what is happening is that you're getting two pieces for the rook. So knight c3. And then after takes and takes, white has these 3 nice pieces here. So, and they also have the bishop pair as well. So this is going to be better. This is going to be better for white. And yeah, this black light square bishop, you probably need to play d6 to try and get the bishop out. Yeah, this is not looking so fun. So this is why you would not be able to take on b2 there. Hello to everybody who is just tuning in. Hello, hello. Okay, I will set up a prediction on the Twitch channel. I really hope we get this fixed soon. I'm just going to refresh and see if anything has been updated here. See if the board has been fixed. Sorry about this, guys. No, the board still hasn't been fixed. Okay, so usually with the DGT, usually it takes 10 minutes or something like that to be fixed. So I think hopefully it's going to happen. I'm reading both chats, so hello to Vulcan. If you guys have any lines or anything that you want to discuss, talk about with openings, that sort of thing, now is a great time. While the DGT board is not working, we can talk through absolutely every single line and every single variation because we have nothing working right now. Welcome to everyone who's tuning in from all around the world. Okay. I will do a prediction. Will Hans win round 1 today? Okay, and then win. Okay. I will put a prediction in the chat. I'm sorry for my very loud keyboard. Here we go. Now, I will set up this prediction. What is going on today? All right. Anyway, so Hans's opponent, I'm not sure if you guys know very much about Hans's opponent, but I decided to do some research on him because I didn't actually know much about him. So maybe this is the time that we can talk about Hans's opponent, because I was like, this is a very high rated player. He's peaked at like 2750, but honestly, I hadn't heard much about it. So he is part of the English Federation as of 2023. So he was actually born in Russia and then changed federation in 2023 and became England's highest rated player just by changing federation. And then he hit his peak of 2750 in 2019. So just 5 years ago, he was 2750, which is extremely, extremely strong. He's now lost a bit of rating. He's at 2678, but still very high rated player, one of the top players. And I saw that he achieved the Grandmaster title at age 20. And he also was the coach, well, one of the coaches for Jan Nepomniachtchi in his World Championship matches against Ding Liren and against Magnus Carlsen. So he was doing some coaching for Jan for World Championship. So I found that very interesting also. And then here, he was a prodigy because he learned chess. Yes, that's what I was also going to say. He actually learned chess. He started playing in tournaments at 10 years old, which is very, very late compared to a lot of the grandmasters that we see. I mean, a lot of them start learning at 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. Whereas Nikita, Hans's opponent for today, only started playing tournaments at 10 years old and then achieved the grandmaster title at 20 and was able to get up to 2750. So yeah, he was reaching 2500 at 20 years old and still was able to push 200 more rating beyond that in the next 10 years or so. So he hit his peak at around 32 years old. So he's about 37 now. So he learned a lot later compared to a lot of the grandmasters that you see, and also, yeah, achieved his grandmaster title as a lot later than, you know, most grandmasters we're seeing are achieving their grandmaster title at age 15, age 16, something like that. 20 is, I mean, it's not old, but it's old for a professional chess player. Is this a tournament? So the tournament that we are watching right now is Hans Niemann versus the World, the London edition. So Hans is playing a set of matches against very strong players. So he started with a match against Anish Giri last week. This week he's playing against Nikita, and then he has his third match in Paris next week, I believe. And here there are some classical games. All the time controls are 90 plus 30, so you're going to have 90 minutes to start off with and 30 seconds increment added per move. There is no time control, no added time at move 40, so it's just 90 plus 30. And then there's going to be 3 points for a win and 1.5 for a draw. And then there is a rapid match as well as a blitz match. So there are 3 sets of matches, and there's a $20,000 prize fund for this one, with the winner taking $13,000 and the loser taking $7,000. In Paris, I will have to actually check who he's playing against. Let me check who his opponent is for the 3rd round, because unfortunately I haven't checked this yet. My name is pronounced HANS. It's a Welsh last name, if anyone is curious. Okay, so the name of his last opponent, I'm afraid I'm definitely going to mispronounce. Etienne Bacro. I'm not sure if that is how it's pronounced, but it's going to take place. This is an interesting thing. So next week, by the way, the reason why I'm talking so much, I know that people might be coming in like, why is this commentator absolutely talking and talking and talking? I want to talk about the chess. The DGT board is currently not working, so we are not able to see the moves at the moment, so I'm just talking until we get the DGT board back up. So this is why. I promise I'm not slacking off. Okay, so the 3rd match is going to take place on the 20th to 24th of August, and it's going to be in the Blitz Society chess bar. And I've actually been there before. It's an interesting place to have a very serious tournament, because it's more like a casual bar where you're playing chess and hanging out. They have social events and that sort of thing. So it's an interesting place to have a very professional tournament like this. Okay. So yes, that is going to be the 3rd one in Paris. And then after that, he's also going to be playing in Paris against Magnus in the Speed Chess Championship finals. Okay. So I think I've run out of fun facts for now about Hans's opponent. I was trying to find Hans's opponent's opening repertoire, and for some reason, this 2700 chess was like showing that Hans's opponent played the weirdest things. Nikita played the weirdest things that he didn't actually play. It was telling me that Nikita was playing this, and I have no idea why the opening database was telling me that this is what Nikita was playing. I don't know if he sometimes played it entitled Tuesday or something like that for fun, but I was like, what is this opening? They call it the Amazon attack. I was like, does he really play this? He doesn't really play this, but no idea why 2700 chess was telling me he played this. Magnus is confirmed to play in Paris. He is confirmed to play. I think Magnus usually does say if he won't be playing an event in advance, usually. And I believe he did confirm and say that he will be playing this. Oh yes, the chess.com board is also not working. We're using Lee Chess today. Oh, okay. Yeah, so DGT board still not fixed. Is there time? The time should be shown. Ooh, okay. I think we got it fixed. There we go. Okay, guys, I predicted it correctly. Oh no. The position is changing. What is going on? What is going on? Okay. What is going on? Okay, so we predicted correctly at least. We had a trade of the rooks. The queen took on e1. What is the match score? The match score is currently 4.5 to 1.5 in Hans's favor. So there is 3 points per win and 1.5 point per draw. And Hans had 1 win and 1 draw yesterday. Okay. Yeah. So it is confirmed that the Speed Chess Championship match will go ahead. I mean, if Magnus refuses to play that, that'll be really unfortunate. I think it'll be a really fun match, especially for maybe Hans to prove himself, show what he can do in Blitz. So I think it'll be a really fun match, as long as it all goes ahead as expected. So let's continue where we left off. We had a trade of the rooks. Queen is now on e1. And as we were talking about the threat is that white wants to take on d6 and double the pawns. And here, the knight goes to e8. So here the knight is going to e8. It feels a little bit strange to be moving it backwards like this. But if you move forward, there is always this threat of bishop takes c7. So this is a big looming threat. You need to move the knight to some square or it's also going to defend this c7 pawn. Because as we talked about before, bishop c7 is possible. And if you take, there is the checkmate down on e8. So some backrank threats. So here the knight needs to move back to e8, where it's going to place some defense on the c7 pawn. So now you can't take here. The knight will just capture. And there's nothing to worry about. Okay. So why are the moves not updating? This is, I'm not sure if it's a problem with Lichess or the live board, but every time I go back and show another variation, the moves just disappear. I'm not sure if this is just because I'm terrible with technology or something like this, but let's see. Okay, so we have now white is developing their knight to c3. So they're bringing the knight out here. And then HANS takes the pawn on d4. Now this is, I will say, this has happened in a lot of games before, so it's definitely not it's not novelty. It's just something that has happened before, so I'm sure both players are aware of this. They know what is happening. So here, HANS captures his pawn. And then we have, oh my gosh, this is going to drive me crazy. Okay, we have knight to d5. And here now there is again this threat on c7. Yes, it is on Lichess, but for some reason the clocks and the board is just not updating. So every time I go and put moves in, it pauses the clocks and then also pauses the games. So what can I do? What can I do? Because the clocks are for some reason not updating here. Okay. Use this. I think that's what I was using. Yeah, that is what I'm using. Okay, let's try this again. Let's try this again. Sorry about this, chat. It won't take too long, hopefully. Okay. I think the clocks show it, but the problem is once I make a move, then it doesn't show the rest of the game anymore. So I'm not sure exactly how I can show variations without this. All right. So if I go in here and I show a move. Ah, okay, they show that. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. As long as it keeps updating the moves. Okay. I think it's lagging out. Yeah, that might be the case. Okay, this is live. Yes, this is live. Yesterday he had a win in the end, but it was very difficult to find. Ah, we can maybe look at that. If there is a quiet point during this game, we can have a look at that. Okay, so I'm just gonna draw arrows for now. I'll try and not play with the board too much because it seems to be messing things up if I do this. But all right. So here knight d5 is played, and the reason why you cannot capture this pawn here on b2, I mean, it is possible, but there is a looming threat already on this pawn on c7. I really want to show moves on the board. We'll see. Okay, so if you take here, there's rook b1, and then say the bishop moves back. Let's say it goes back to d4. Okay, d4 is not a good example. I need to find a good square. Okay, maybe this is just absolutely terrible though. Okay, bishop a3. You have a big threat on this pawn over here. The queen can come forward attacking the bishop. Oh, does the bishop really have no squares? The bishop actually gets trapped here. Okay, this is crazy. This is worse than I thought. I thought the reason why you couldn't take on b2 was after rook b1, then c7 was under attack. With all of these back rank threats, all of the pieces teaming up to attack this. My arrows are going crazy here. But the problem is also the bishop is running out of squares. So if here, then the bishop just has really nowhere to go. Okay, if you go all the way back to f8, then rook e1, and then this is just completely crushing. I'm showing way too many moves here, but then knight c7 comes in. Absolutely crazy game. Anyway, this is not what happened on the board. Yeah, so here, knight d5. I just wanted to show why knight d5 was going to be played. It's to attack this pawn on c7 and try and create some additional pressure with the queen still threatening back rank mate if the piece is banned. Yeah, so that's a crazy line. So you can't take this pawn on b2, and I'm sure the grandmasters, they've studied this well and truly enough to know that they cannot take. So Hans here plays d6, and here this cuts off the bishop from attacking the pawn on c7. So now the threats on c7 are definitely neutralized by this pawn here. d6 makes things a lot better for black now. And then here bishop g5 is played, attacking the queen, and this forces black to play the move f6. This forces black to play the move f6, which is a little bit uncomfortable. I guess this e7 square is otherwise just completely under attack. If you try and move the queen instead, then again there's queen e4 ideas, attacking the bishop, maybe again trying to capture the bishop, and then you go for something like knight e7, you infiltrate over here, and it looks very scary. So this is going to provoke black to push this pawn to f6. Yes, so queen d7 is out of the question. Too many attackers on this e7 square, and this bishop also could be lost. It could end up being trapped because of this knight on d5 controlling many of the dark squares. So he plays f6 here, and this kicks the bishop away now. The bishop now goes back to h4. And here, the top engine move is actually g5, but that looks crazy for any human to play g5. That seems too crazy. Instead, Hans plays the move c6. And this forces the knight to go somewhere. Before, there was lots of threats, maybe at some point, that black would start pushing forward with... Sorry, white would start pushing forward with the pawns attacking the bishop. But now here, the knight on d5 is going to be kicked away. And after something like knight to e7, the king can actually just hide on the h8 square. And it's really nothing to worry too much about. But it's still a good move for white to throw in. So here, they play knight to e7 check. The king hides on h8. Now we have bishop to d3, so suddenly this has actually become a really aggressive position. Welcome in to anybody who's watching from the YouTube chat and from the Twitch chat. Welcome in, guys. Just an update for anybody who is just checking in. We do not have cameras at the moment due to some technical difficulties, but hopefully for next round, we have those all sorted. Hopefully for next round, we have a nice broadcast where everything is working. We just have to cross our fingers. Okay, so yes, this bishop has come out to d3. I would not play g5. I wouldn't either. It feels very, very weakening on the king to play g5. He did play this move in Tata, okay. So he's prepared here. Okay, that's crazy. I looked at the g5 move, and black has a, what is this? I'm really terrible at maths. 93% score rate or something like that. They have 23% win and then 69% draw. Okay, 92% score rate. And then white only wins 8% of these games. Okay. So g5 is actually a very strong move according to Games in History, but somebody has said that this has been played before. But today Hans goes for something different and he plays c6. And then this bishop is coming to d3. So yeah, this is starting to get a lot more interesting. It's starting to become a lot more double-edged as it was a few moves ago. Before it was looking very equal, but now we've got this really interesting pawn structure for black where f6 is being played, d6, c6. This just looks very interesting to me. Like white's pawn structure looks very normal. All the pawns just on the second rank, whereas this move f6 here, it looks quite strange. It looks quite strange, but it is the right way to play, so Hans definitely knows this. one thing that I would be really scared about is just all the pressure on the king side right now. All the pressure on the king side. Like these pieces, they are starting to all work towards attacking on the king side, which I would be very scared about. Yeah, you don't want to play a move like g6. That would really, really weaken everything. For now, you're defending, but g6 would be terrifying. Okay. So I think the clocks are all working now, so this is great. Now, d5. Okay, d5, I like it. We're just going to take space in the center and then maybe put the bishop on c5. I like this idea. I like this idea. Let me just fix everything here. Oops, sorry. Okay. So, we maybe have some options. Okay, g6 is actually a possible move, though. That's crazy. G6 looks terrifying. I mean, okay, let's have a little look at what happens here. Now, g6, you allow white to get a big attack and maybe sacrifice this knight on g6 and have a completely naked looking king. Allow white to come in for the sacrifice. They can even prepare it by going queen e2 first. I mean, this just looks absolutely terrifying, but apparently it's okay because your idea is that you're just going to hide the king on g7. Like, okay, say they play a normal move like c3. Now you can put your bishop on e5. Or, okay, this is actually a nice threat to go bishop e5. That's something I didn't think about. Putting the bishop on e5 and you cut off the queen from defending the knight. And you force the knight to try and trade off. This is interesting, actually. So you have this idea to go here and force the knight to trade itself off for this bishop that's on c8, sorry. Coordinates. I will get the coordinates wrong at least 20 times. Okay. So yeah, this is interesting. So what are you saying here? G6, okay, and king G7. Okay, wait, so knight takes G6. Or bishop F6 is what you want. Wait, you said bishop F6? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you're wanting here, but the king is going to hide on this square, but it still doesn't look very safe. I think this is a really hard sequence of moves to play. I don't know if we will see G6. I mean, it seems like, honestly, it seems like a HANS move, not gonna lie. But because he always plays this pushing his pawns in front of the king and doesn't even think twice about it. But yeah, G6 would be super interesting. So there is one idea that I want to show right away, that you can just sacrifice the knight. After capture's back, then the bishop is going to come in and take. And then the idea is maybe you're going to infiltrate with the queen. So you've got two pawns, one pawn actually for the piece. Because black earlier captured on d4. But yeah, it looks really, really dangerous having the king completely open to these two bishops. Yeah, you just play knight c7 calmly, removing a defender of the f6 square. And then something like queen d1 could be played, attacking the bishop. Also threatening to come in with h5. I definitely don't think this line will happen, because what you can play here is just king to g7. King to g7. Absolutely crazy. Just go king g7. Allow the bishop to be captured, because then the king can take on g6 and black is better. Now that just looks kind of crazy, but HANS will come out of this upper piece here if that happens. So yes, there is this idea that white can sacrifice this knight on g6, take the two pawns and try and go for some attack, maybe queen d1 to infiltrate, or queen e2, queen e4. There's lots of ways to try and bring the queen in. So you sacrifice, try and get the pieces in, bring the queen in, attacking this bishop, and basically play for activity. But it's a very, very aggressive way to play. And if you get anything wrong there as white, it's bad. I don't think we have any mods for YouTube chat, so sometimes some things would be interesting in there. Let's say some interesting messages over there, but it's all right. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's any. Maybe there are some moderators that exist, but all right. Let's see. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so what are some other moves? Let's see. So bishop e5 is also another immediate threat. You can play bishop to e5 here and cut off the queen from defending this knight that's on e7. So here, maybe you would be forced to capture on c8. But there is also something else interesting that white can play. They can instead go for the checkmate threat first. They don't need to trade off straight away, but they probably will trade off. And then here, if Hans is playing g6, then you sacrifice the knight. And this almost looks stronger with the queen at the front of the battery and you coming in with a big attack here. Like h takes and then queen takes. Hans would have to defend with something like queen to e7. But then white can strike with f4. There's lots of super exciting lines here. Say bishop to d4 check. The king can run, and now there is a threat to come in with the rook to e1. Everything is going to be attacked down here. If you're not careful, say you just play something bad, rook to e1, and everything is under attack, everything is hanging, huge amount of pressure. But Hans has played something. Okay, he has played d5, and I think this looks like the most reasonable move to not get into all these crazy complications with queen e4. This move actually not only gains some space in the center, but also stops queen e4 from ever happening. So this is kind of nice. Yes, the queens can still get in another way, but the queen is never going to directly come in and start targeting the h7 pawn super easily. They need to prepare it like queen e2, then bring the queen over to h5. So it's a little bit slower. And yeah, I like it. d5 is now given some space. Let's just see. I will check that all the moves are up to date because I know that the DGT board has been a little bit dodgy today, but we'll hope that for the rest of the game it works as well as it's been doing now. So now white just needs to decide on a move here. I think that white has the more aggressive attacking position right now, but that could change in an instant. I think this pawn on f6 means that basically Hans will be playing a defensive role for quite a while. White has a really nice pawn structure, but also this pawn on d5 is nice. White doesn't have much space in the center. They have no pawns in the center. Hans is the only one with a pawn in the center. I wonder if at some point maybe you want to play c4 as white. Like, maybe not right now, but I would be thinking at some point maybe to play c4 and just try and trade off the d pawn. I would be thinking about that. Okay. Really? Yeah. Yeah, the YouTube chat, interesting. Okay. Why no camera? The camera is not working today. But there will be a camera hopefully for next game. But maybe not. I don't know. I'm looking to see between the people who are organizing the events, and it seems like they're struggling a little bit to get the camera working. So it will hopefully be on for the next round, but most likely tomorrow. All right. So streams. Oh no, the Twitch chat is very good actually. Hans's Twitch chat is good. For now. Please teach how the horsey moves. Very important lesson. Okay. So the plan for white here. The one thing is I'm thinking this bishop on h4 seems a little bit awkward, right? Here, after f6 has been played, the interesting part about playing this silly looking move f6, it's not silly at all, but it looks silly sometimes. For all of us that have been taught never to push f6, never to push the pawns in front of the king, is it actually sort of leaves this bishop with not much scope. It's only staring at the f6 pawn, which is very well defended by 1, 2, 3, and sort of 4 pieces right now. So there is a lot of defense on this pawn over here. So there's really not a lot that this bishop is doing right now. So maybe the bishop needs to actually crawl back to the g3 square, because it's not doing much on this diagonal. And, you know, g5 was a move earlier. G5 was possible earlier. I don't think it's going to be played now, but maybe that could have happened at some point. Maybe you just want to hide this bishop back. Well, not hide this bishop back. Improve it by putting it on g3. So, other things to be thinking about here also, maybe you do just trade off. I mean, will we see g5? That's something that I'm going to wonder. Hans has played it before, apparently. So, it's possible that we'll see it again. Who is this woman? Is she Hans Niemann? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Okay. He plays queen to e2. So he decides not to trade. He decides not to trade here. Also, is not too worried about this bishop right now. Maybe thinks that in the future it can go back to g3. But right now, he's going to bring the queen out. Maybe at some point you could plan to stack up the queen and the rook over here on the e-file. Hans immediately responds with g5. So I was just talking about whether g5 will be played, and g5 is played. So now we will have to see this bishop go back to g3. And this pawn structure around the king looks ridiculously unsafe. But d5 is kind of coming in clutch here. It's holding everything together. This knight on e8. Super great defensive role. The bishop on d4 as well is doing great as well. So yeah, this is very, very interesting. You would have to just be careful that this bishop, you would never really want to give up this dark square bishop, I don't think. Because if this diagonal is ever becoming open, then the king is completely vulnerable to attacks. Like say in a world where, okay, I wanna find a way, for example, if c3 is played, something like bishop b6 here. I would be wondering if it is ever possible to try and go for something like this kind of sacrifice. I guess for now, this knight can come in to defend, but I would just be thinking at some point I would be scared of this queen coming into e5 because the knight is controlling these two squares around the king. I would be very scared about this. But for now, it's okay. I was just thinking if sometime in the future c3 is played, the bishop is kicked off this diagonal, you always have to be really careful about the fact that opening up this diagonal could leave you really vulnerable. But alright. So g5, I expect we're just going to see the bishop moving. Okay, my name is Hannah. For the person who's coming in the chat, you can see it here. Is the clock blurry? It might be a little bit blurry because I've had to zoom in. Because I've had to zoom in on the clocks. They're just the ones that are on the Lead Chess website, so I've just had to zoom in on them. Alright, but for now, I think, well, there's a few options here. This is one of those funny positions where you can sort of just counterattack a lot of pieces. And everything will be hanging at once, like something like c3. The bishop is hanging, this is hanging. Okay, as long as you guys can read them, that's okay. Response to queen h5. Yeah, queen h5 is an immediate attack on the king, right? Okay, let's think about if queen h5, threatening checkmate here, how are we going to respond as black? Oh, queen h5 just hangs the knight and we take on e7. And then we defend. Okay. Yeah, so queen h5 cannot be played. Maybe it like takes queen h5? But then just something like queen h7. And then we can defend. Yeah, I was overcomplicating that for sure. I was like, wow, queen h5, really great move. But yeah, it does hang the knight. and then you can just take. And queen e7 defends everything. Still does look a little bit scary. Like maybe if you include this first, it looks a bit more scary. But I think still if queen h5, then this queen can come up to c7 or e7. Maybe e7 is better because we're controlling the open file. So like queen h5, yeah, queen e7 defends everything for now, and then this bishop has to move back to g3, and there's really no big threat over here. I mean, this is still fine for both sides. But I expect that white isn't going to play this because there isn't really the biggest threat. Rook e1, so maybe you want to go rook e1. Okay, so rook e1 to maybe threaten queen h5. This could be interesting. Yeah, this is wild with all the pawns around the king. I agree. This is crazy. The way this pawn structure has ended up is something that, you know, if you saw this position coming up, you have to say, okay, this is either a 300 elo or a 2600 elo. It's nothing in between that. Because I think anyone higher rated than 300 but lower rated than 2600 is too scared to push the pawns in front of the king. Whereas the live board, there is a live board on Lichess and also on chess.com. It should be under the broadcast section in HANS Niemann vs. World. Yes. Hello, everyone who is joining in now. White is much better. The funny thing is, white is not that much better, actually. It's plus 0.3. White is a little better, but not that much better. There's a Lichess game with this exact position. Well, the thing is, okay, we've actually we've gone into a novelty here with g5. But there were very, very similar games played before without queen e2. G5 was played first. So this G5 move is not that surprising because it's been played in the database a few times. A few moves back. So I'm sure that Hans will have seen very similar positions, or maybe this exact position before, and known that G5 can be played. Okay. So yes, maybe you could try and bring this rook over to e1. So what are we going to do if the rook comes to e1? So now there is actually the threat of queen h5 because we can no longer take on e7 anymore because the rook defends. So if queen h5, maybe we need, if rook e1, we maybe need to play something a little bit defensive to stop queen h5. I mean, knight g7 stops queen h5, but I don't think it's a good move. Does Lichess, so Lichess is recommending, yeah, you can see these arrows here. These arrows are going to be the top engine moves. So knight takes c8 is engine best move. It does feel a little strange to use this knight that you've moved many, many times. Gone from like b1, c3, d5. It's moved many squares. It feels strange to move it and capture this bishop that is never once moved. But it can be played. And it does mean that Hans will have a harder time defending the light squares. So maybe this is, it would always be something you'd be thinking about. You'd always be thinking about potential trades like this. Nikita might have to be careful on time. Yes, this is very different from a lot of the games that I've seen played in Europe because in this game we're not seeing any time control. There isn't added time at move 40. So time management becomes way more important in these sort of games because you never get that little boost of extra time in the end game. You have your 90 minutes and that's it. You get 30 seconds increment, but you'd be surprised how quickly 30 seconds increment feels like it disappears when you're playing classical. Feels like almost nothing by the time that you've hovered your hand over the piece for a few seconds and then you make the move, tap the clock, write down the move, and suddenly that 30 seconds has disappeared, it feels like. So yeah, a lot of the games in Europe have this time control. They have this 30 minutes added at move 40, which means that the time goes for a lot longer. I don't think we have a command for the host, but it is me. I'm Hannah. Yeah, there's always this idea that you can sacrifice the knight here. But first you need to move this bishop. Like, you can't play knight g6 now because this bishop is currently hanging. But there's a lot of ideas that you can play knight g6, and knight c8 is the best move, but I think we've just had a move. Firstly, okay, this is a very, what's the word? Responsible, solid move. Bishop g3, just move the piece that is attacked, okay? Avoid all this crazy complication. Just move the piece that is attacked. No, I'm not GM J Nelson, but I will do my best to provide the best commentary that I can. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Okay, this is what I was thinking about. I was thinking, would knight g7 be played? Because knight g7 is always preventing queen h5, which I kind of like. All right, for anybody who's asking about my rating, I am 2200 online, but over the board, I am 1800. I'm not very high rated, but yeah, I'm a relatively new player to chess. Okay, thank you. No worries. Yeah, okay. So yeah, knight g7. We control the h5 square, so that is what I was thinking. I just quickly want to see if rook e1 was played on the previous move. Okay, knight g7 was the top move. Okay, that's what I was maybe thinking. To stop queen h5 altogether. Okay, so that's how we would have defended if that was played. But yes, here in this game, knight g7 is played anyway. Thank you. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you. All right. Similar rating, nice. At least I can probably relate a lot to the people in chat. We might be confused over similar moves, so we can relate. Very nice. How can a new player have higher rating than me who's been playing for... well, I'm not that new. I've been playing like 3 years now. I've been playing 3 years. I started playing tournaments in 2021, so I guess I'm not really a new player anymore. I feel like a new player compared to almost everybody else that I am seeing in the chess community, because a lot of people have been playing since they were little kids. So I feel like a new player, but I guess I'm not. I'm becoming an old player now. Never reached this position? I have never. I don't think anyone in chat has reached this position before. But yes, knight g7. Now, an interesting thing that could happen now is that we get this trade. And then we will have a serious imbalance in the position. If we get this trade of knight for bishop, white will have these two bishops, and Hans will have the relatively weak king. But also he has a lot of space and control of the center. So this, we do have captures. Okay, he takes. I think this is going to be a super interesting game, like playing with the two bishops against the bishop and knight. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. But I liked this knight does a really great job of controlling the light squares, because when you're losing a bishop of one color square, then you probably want to try and use your knight, if you still have one, to control the squares of the color of the bishop that you lost. If that makes absolutely any sense at all. But this is something, it seems super intuitive, but it's sometimes hard to think about it in your games. But if you have a dark square bishop, even though it might seem nice to have a knight on like e6 or f5, you're kind of competing for the same squares with these two pieces. Whereas this knight here, it controls a lot of squares, of these light squares, sorry, that now he's struggling a little bit more to control because he's lost his light square bishop. Okay, so yes, this knight does capture, and that is a good point. The knight on e7 was risking being trapped at some point also. Maybe not quite, but there was basically nowhere for the knight to retreat when this knight was on e7. The knight on g7 now controls f5. All of these squares are protected by Hans's pawns. So yeah, maybe if something else was played, you know, say if we had a move like this, bishop e6, and now the knight is trapped. So if you're not careful there, you could have got your knight trapped. So it's a very wise decision actually to have this trade. All right, so the rook captures. I think it makes a lot of sense to take with this piece that hasn't moved yet. And all right, let's see where the pieces will go. Queen G4. Ah, this is a really interesting idea. I don't know if this will be played. I'm on a Zoom call where we're meant to have the player cams, and I'm currently seeing just like the back of someone's arm. I don't know if that means we're gonna get cameras soon or if I'm not sure. Okay. So what a move. Queen G4. I'm like, are we getting cameras? Queen G4. This sort of immobilizes the queen. It can't get active through the D7 square. There should be a little bar. Can you see the eval bar? Wait, why is there a bishop instead of the clock? Okay. I mean, the clock should be there. Okay, the clock is there. Clock is there. Yeah, Queen G4 would have been a very interesting move to restrict black's pieces here and stop the queen from moving up to the D7 square, because the queen wants to get up here. Wants to move up to D7. Maybe the rook will go to F8 or something like that. But Queen G4 would have been super interesting, also putting pressure on the bishop at the same time. So this would have been a nice move. But instead we get a move from white, which is not Queen G4, and it is C3. And we are immediately kicking the bishop away from the center. Okay. Oh, thank you, Baha. Thank you. Maybe if there's a quiet moment in the, like if there is a long think in the classical, then I can chat about that with you. Yes, he blundered. 0.1. Amazing. Yeah, I think this is still a very equal position, but not equal exactly. It's equal in a weird way where the engine is like, yeah, sure, it's about the same for both players, but there are so many differences between what both players have, with the bishop pair for one side, all of these pawns in the center for Hans. Okay, so Hans decides to move his bishop back to c5 rather than b6. I think the reason why b6 might be slightly better is that here when it goes to c5, now white gets to push a pawn forward, gain some space on the queen side with an attack on the bishop. So this is maybe why it is slightly better to retreat the bishop all the way back, where it cannot be attacked. But the reason why Hans might have moved to c5 is that he actually preferred to maybe go back to the f8 square, have the bishop play a defensive role. So he might have thought, on b6 I don't really see a future for this bishop. Which is interesting, because maybe on b6, like, where is your bishop really thinking about going? It's attacking this pawn that's not really doing a whole lot. Whereas on c5, it still remains a little bit flexible, and it can head back to the f8 square. And I think this is why he chose to play this. So b4 is possible. Aussie with a Welsh accent. Wait, I have a Welsh accent. Okay, my last name is actually Welsh, so maybe it's from my ancestors. I don't have any like direct, or I don't know. Okay, anyway. We have the bishop going to c5 instead. And b4 is actually not played here. So I was really wondering what Hans would do if b4 was played. I'm really expecting this bishop would go all the way back to f8. Makes sense if this bishop came this way. But white decides not to play it. He instead decides to play bishop to c2. And bishop c2, I mean, I'm sure that even 1000 ELO players have seen this kind of move in your openings, where the bishop goes backwards for the queen to maybe line up and attack on h7. This is maybe a common idea. Sometimes on c2 also there is some idea where you want to push a4 or something like that. So maybe white is going to go for some play on the queen side in the future, push the pawns over here. It's pronounced Sace, my last name. Hello. Okay, so yeah, bishop c2 may give the chance for white to create a battery here with the queen on d3 and the bishop over here, because as we were talking about before, d5 was played earlier and queen e4 can never happen. Queen e4 can never happen, so they can never create a battery this way. But let's see if this bishop c2 move actually works. Now the position is slightly better for Hans, so it's actually giving -0.1 now. So guys, Hans is winning, yay! I think that, okay, if this was a 1000 elo game, then I would say white is crushing here. Just because of the king safety. Like, I feel like white is going to play this and checkmate black. But because they're grandmasters, because they're very strong grandmasters, black is a little bit better. Okay. So Hans plays queen e7 here. Queen e7, a wise move, just looking to trade off the queens. I think there is not a whole lot more to say about this, but basically this queen was a little bit passive on the d8 square, and now it's coming up to e7. It's also creating a defensive resource for if any queen d3 funny business happens as well. We've got a little bit of protection on this h7 pawn from the queen here. So here the queen trade is offered, and this means that Hans is ready to go into an endgame where he's going to play against the two bishops. So it's going to be tricky. These two bishops tend to work together very nicely in the endgame, as we know. Yes. Yes, there are rook e1 threats, of course. And queen e7 just says, okay, now if you play rook e1, I'm just going to trade. But white will take the e-file here. But then there's some idea to go just like king g8. Okay, some funny business. I mean, you can even just play rook e8 at some point, maybe if you want to trade off the rooks. I don't, but you probably don't. Maybe you just keep it solid, but interesting. But yeah, maybe we'll see rook e1. I think that rook e1 is a really nice choice. Engine recommends just trading, which also looks good, but I think that maybe optically rook e1 looks better just because we're taking control of the e-file. Yes, the time control is 90 plus 30 with no added time. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, Hans, I've noticed that Hans always seems to be up on time. I think this no time control definitely benefits him compared to his opponents because he always seems to be playing moves relatively quickly. He has a very good, something that you maybe can't even teach, a very good intuition for chess. He knows exactly where to put the pieces. And it's very impressive to see, like, when I just look at a position, I'm like, why that move? And he just plays it instantly. It's very nice. Thinks on opponent's time? Yeah, I think almost everyone does this where they think on their opponent time. But some people are slow calculators, some people are fast calculators, and some people also just have an eye for where pieces should go, an eye for good moves. Yeah, he plays very fast. In the rapid games, he was playing extremely fast. Okay. Thank you. I'm reading both YouTube chat and Twitch chat today, so thanks for the messages in there. I think I was ignoring YouTube chat last time. I didn't mean to. Okay, but I didn't realize we were streaming there for a while. Okay. So, yes, trading queens is an option. Trading queens is an option. There's a few options here for white. I think this is one of those positions where a lot of moves are probably okay. But I think we will either see a queen trade or rook e1. But there is also the possibility to avoid the trade. But I don't think this will happen because this just allows Hans to start bringing in his rooks. Like, for example, if you decide to play queen d3 here, then maybe you can start bringing in this rook to e8. I mean, obviously the engine is saying, of course, we have to defend the checkmate first. So you can even play f5 to defend, which looks absolutely crazy. But after something like a4, then the position is really, really nice for black. We have control of this file here. It looks really good. We can just respond with a5 and stop the attack down here. And then, finally, after the king moves to f1, it's important to first, before playing rook e8, to slow down the attack on this side, remove the counterplay. But something like this, then you play rook e8. This is not actually happening, by the way. This is if white were to avoid the queen trade and then try and play something like queen d3 to go for checkmate. So here the rook would be able to come into e8 and then create all this all this pressure down the e-file, and you just see how this immediately looks a lot nicer for black. So I expect that we will see a trade of some sorts, whether it's by bringing in the rook to e1 first. I mean, rook to e1 essentially forces Hans to trade, because now if he's moving the queen away, that totally defeats the purpose of bringing the queen to e7 to begin with and offering the trade, and it allows white to get exactly what they want. Big activity down here. So I don't think he will avoid it. He can sort of say no, you trade first by playing rook e8. This is also possible. And then we could just see a huge trade of all of the pieces and go right into an endgame. But yes, there are a few options here. I wonder whether he will capture first or whether he will bring his rook over. Okay. White doesn't want to trade. I mean, he seems to be thinking about it quite a lot. Let's see if the clocks will update, though. Okay, we have a move now. We have a move that has been played now. And the queen takes on e7. And of course, Hans can respond extremely quickly by playing bishop takes to e7. And then after this, we have rook to e1, immediately attacking the bishop and controlling the e-file. But the good thing is here, the knight on g7 controls the e6, e8 squares. And after this bishop moves up somewhere, either to f8 or c5, wherever it wants to go, maybe it'll go to f8, who knows. The bishop will control the e7 square, and the knight will control these two squares. So the rook can never really infiltrate. So even though they're controlling the e-file very well, the rook can't come in and start doing some damage. So I think this is nice. Can you please adjust the board so hopefully you guys can see it now. I'll just maybe quickly refresh. So okay, we have another move. Now the moves are all there. Sorry, the technical difficulties have been a lot today. I apologize for that. So he decides not to move the bishop away, but instead bring in the rook to e8, which seems like also a completely fine way to play. I'm sure there is a lot of okay moves here. And now the king comes into f1. They're starting to reach the endgame. So now is the point where the kings will start to come forward towards the center. Although for Hans, he can't immediately start bringing the king fully towards the center. He can play king g8, but king f7 will have to be delayed because h7 is under attack right now. So there are a few things to think about. He can just start bringing in the king. Does make sense to play king g8 and bring this king over. Maybe also he wants to make some adjustment to the pawn structure. There's probably a lot of things. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay. Yes, Hans is up a pawn. That's something that we should notice. The position looks very, very crazy at the moment, but we do have to remember that Hans is up a pawn. So this is why that Hans is very slightly better, despite the fact that white has the bishop pair and also a safer king and maybe a better pawn structure. Hans actually has an extra pawn. So at some point, a plan could be to try and push a pawn over here, try and create a pass pawn over on the d-file. So even though this might end up in a draw, it's probably going to be a long grind of a game regardless. He does bring in the king. He brings it into g8, starting that move of the kings towards the center. Berlin is so boring. I think this has been a very interesting game so far. So this is going to be one of those games where Hans will have to show his endgame technique, and so will the opponent, of course, to make sure they don't let it run away. But yes, whenever there is a grandmaster playing with an extra pawn, that means that there is going to be a long game. But the game can't be that long, as we mentioned. There is no time control, so the game can't extend beyond around 4 or 5 hours or something like that. I think the longest 90 plus 30 game is probably 4.5 hours or something like that. Okay, we are going to see a rematch of Hans versus Magnus very soon. That's going to be exciting. Looking kind of drawish. They agreed to a draw yesterday when Hans had extra pawns. Yeah, so it is possible. It is absolutely possible that they could agree to a draw. I wonder whether it's more likely that they will agree to a draw quickly on the second game of the day compared to the first game of the day though. Because maybe after the second game, you're very, very tired. But also, on the other hand, in the first game of the day, you probably don't want to use up all your energy. I think we're going to have a bunch of different commentators throughout the weekend. I think we're going to have a bunch throughout the weekend. I think there was maybe a few scheduling conflicts, but we'll probably see a lot of different commentators. I know that Agne is going to be going on later tonight. We might have Dina at some point. So a lot of different commentators throughout the weekend. I will be here today and then maybe also tomorrow as well. So yes, I'm very happy to be commentating. It's always very nice when I get asked to commentate for Hans. Thought Hans was totally winning and then they shook hands for a draw. You initially thought Nikita had resigned. But it didn't make sense because it was Hans. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't actually see the game. I saw the first game. Yeah, it's going to be a huge event. Hans versus Magnus is going to be absolutely huge. Especially because of the, you know, the history between them and that sort of thing. Yeah, he's really great. I was watching some of his commentary for the classical rounds. It was very interesting. Should Hans trade off the black bishops is what you're asking. I mean, this could be definitely an option. We just have to work out a way how to do it. You would have to be certain before trading off the dark square bishops, because you would have to play a bishop versus knight endgame. So you'd have to ensure that your knight is going to be good enough that it's going to be okay, because sometimes the bishop can be stronger than the knight. Sometimes the knight can be stronger than the bishop. So you have to be very, very sure about this. But yeah, maybe at some point you're going to go bishop d8, and then after this, bring the bishop up to c7 and offer the trade. This could actually be a really nice way to try and play the endgame. Get rid of white's bishop pair and then just play with the extra pawn. And maybe try and bring the knight up to e6 or something like that. That could be interesting. And then just try and push the pawns over on this side, create a pass pawn. Yeah, this position is mostly closed. There's only one open file. Okay. I think it'll be an exciting event, that's for sure. Okay, so yeah, it could definitely be a trade. It could be an option to go for this trade and try and reach this endgame. So I would be interested to see whether that is what happens. Now, for now, Hans has played king g8. So first it is white to move, and that's going to make a big impact on what Hans is going to play, of course. Knight versus bishop is almost always better than knight plus bishop versus two bishop. Yeah, that's a really good point, that with the two bishops on the board, then you can maybe say this combination here is a lot, well, not a lot worse, but it's going to be worse than these two bishops together, whereas the knight versus the bishop is going to be relatively equal. And with the extra pawn, this could create some winning chances for black. It looks like it. Yeah, it does. It does start to look drawish. Once so many pieces are traded off already, you start to think, the more pieces that are gone from the board, you start to think draw. But I think there is still a lot in this game. Yeah, I don't think that grandmasters are usually blundering forks too much, but the knights can be very tricky, absolutely. So what could be the plan for white here? So Engine is recommending rook e2 or rook e3. I'm not sure whether we will see this. I guess. But what else could you be playing? I mean, you could push a pawn here. You could push to f3. So what would white's plan be in this position? That's what you'd be thinking about, because Hans, of course, before deciding what his plan will be, will have to think about what white is planning to do. Like, of course you want to play with the two bishops, but how would you plan this out? That's a good question. Do you think Hans will be in the next Speed Chess Championship? I don't see why he wouldn't be. I don't see why he wouldn't be. He's in it this year. Question for Hans about the notations he was making in the game. They were like clearly intentionally overworked scribbles, almost totally illegible. Honestly, when I am playing over the board, my notations are very, very bad. Like they always look like scribbles. And that's not intentional at all. I don't realize until afterwards that my notation looks completely unreadable and terrible. I don't want the music to be too loud as to, you know, like be distracting, but I can make it a little louder. Would you want to commentate with someone else? I love commentating with other people. It's really great. I feel like commentating by myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have this awkward silence in between saying something. I run out of things to say. So it's going to be really great. I think that at least later tonight for the second round, I'm going to be doing some commentary for that with a partner. Yeah, there's some very, very quiet music in the background. But yes, commentating without a partner is tricky. He does play F3. Wait, F3 was that? Wait, that was the move that I suggested? Okay, haha. I mean, because I was just thinking Rook E3 and Rook E2 looks so silly, but F3 I was kind of thinking about because maybe you can go Bishop F2 because this bishop over here, it's not really doing a lot on this diagonal. I mean, I always get happy when I predict a GM move, and it's not just the stockfish move, because F3 is not the stockfish move. The stockfish moves are Rook E2 and Rook E3. But we have F3 instead. And yeah, I think maybe you go for this. You try and get the bishop on the F2 square, target down on A7. Maybe the bishop can even reach D4 or something like that also. You have some big dreams for this bishop. It could be great. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly get some water because I'm talking and talking and talking, and if I don't have some water, I'm gonna run out of voice at some point. So I'm just gonna get some water. I will leave the board on here. Should be auto updating, so if any moves happen, they will come through. And I will be right back. Thank you so much everybody for watching. I hope you're enjoying so far. By the way, if anybody is wondering why a certain move isn't being played or thinking about a certain move, wants to suggest something, feel free to. I'm happy to analyze anything that you guys are wondering about or suggesting. So I will be back. See you guys soon. All right, hello everybody, I'm back. Hello, hello. Okay. I am back. Thank you everyone for being patient. It's not water. I decided to get juice instead. I was getting some water, I was drinking some water, and I was like, maybe I want some juice instead. Am I Hans's friend? I mean, we've never met, but he's always been nice to me. But I don't know. Okay. It's not water, you cheated. Alright, let's get back to the game. I don't want to miss anything too much. I think this is the position that we were in when I left at f3. And here, of course is what always happens. As soon as I leave, they start to speed up and make a bunch of moves. But here, he plays bishop to c5, bringing the bishop out. And I think this is preempting the fact that Nikita wanted to play bishop f2. So it's basically saying, if you go bishop f2, I'm just going to trade off this bishop. I'm not going to let you go in and get an attack over here, stop my bishop from getting out. So I like this move, bishop to c5, stopping this idea of bishop f2 effectively. So now, Nikita decides to trade off the rooks. He takes on e8. And now the knight takes on e8. And this is actually nice for Hans, because when this knight was on g7, it didn't really have any squares that it was heading. Yeah, let me know if the music is too loud or anything like that. I want it as some very subtle background music. Just let me know if that is the case. Okay, but yes, when this knight was on g7, it didn't really have any potential of where it was going to go. This bishop was controlling f5, e6 was controlled by the rook. So I like that we're trading this off now. And then maybe there can be something like, if this bishop goes to d6, this bishop takes, the knight can come up to the d6 square. And I think that would be really nice. Yes, if the knight got up to d6, it would control a lot of squares in the center, and that would be great. Making a draw mode now? Yeah, it could be that Nikita is just playing for a draw here. But honestly, to play for a draw when you have the white pieces, it's a little bit surprising. Okay, but after this we have bishop to f5. Bishop to f5 is played. Okay, so let's see. The plan of bishop to f5 is likely to try to infiltrate and go in to this e6 square. You also have this chance to maybe go up to c8 even and sneak behind the pawns and grab pawns over here. Yes, I think all the commentators so far have been great. I mean, I will let you know that I'm not replacing anyone, and it's not like the commentators compete. It's just like who is available for a certain day will commentate for them. So I think everybody has done a really, really good job, and I'm doing my best to do my best, of course. But yes. All right. Do we know why the live cam isn't working? I honestly don't know. All they said was that they tried to get it to work and then it didn't work. But yeah, it was something with the webcam. The arbiters needed to set it up and they couldn't work out how to do it. So it might be something that we work out for next round, hopefully, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not like a commentator battle royale or anything like that. Yes, I think it's always nice when you have someone to talk with and commentate with. All right, but anyway, back to the chess, of course. So yes, as I was saying, this bishop has big plans from f5. I really like this bishop f5 move because it plans to get it in, maybe check the king, and maybe go all the way to c8 and target the pawns from behind. This is something that bishops can do that is absolutely very annoying if you miss this idea. If you ever miss this idea that a bishop can get behind and start targeting the pawn chain from the back, where it is the most weak, because there's no pawns to defend it there, then you can get into big trouble. But Hans here decides to play bishop to d6. And now if there is a trade like this, the knight can capture. And now this bishop on f5 has to actually retreat back. So this is not what is going to happen. But it can't go down to c8 anymore. This is controlled by the knight and it is rendered kind of useless on this diagonal. So bishop d6 offers the trade, but white can really not take it. But yeah, basically Hans is aiming for the trade of the bishops. Trying to get the bishops off the board where you can play bishop first knight. And have that extra pawn to play with. Okay. Yeah, I think this, if anything, it could be a Hans win. Also, there is a big time difference right now. If Nikita continues to use his time this way, there could be some trouble. Because we're not really thinking in a way of like, oh, once you get to move 40, then you have extra time and it's fine. But yes, white has played some nice. Yeah, I think bishop f5 was nice, but now he needs to work out what to do with this bishop. F3 was a wise move to have played because now the bishop can go back to f2 and there's nothing to worry about. But if he trades here, this is big trouble for white, and just a winning endgame for Hans. Will the bishop not be better in an open position? Well, the position is not really open. So open versus closed it's sometimes hard to think about it because it looks like the position is open because there are so many free squares on the board, but it's actually more or less a closed position because there are still 7 pawns. So you can think of closed versus open as just as how many pawns are on the board. So I would say this is almost as closed as it gets, but not quite. There is a little bit of opening, but I think the main factor here, of course, is that Hans has an extra pawn. Like, maybe if the material was equal, then the bishop can be quite nice in the endgame, no matter what. But here, Hans has the extra pawn, so that's going to be more decisive in the position. Okay, yes, this time management from Nikita will start to worry you guys soon, I think. Because Hans still has over an hour. Sometimes I wonder whether he makes it a challenge, like, okay, I'm not gonna go below an hour on the clock. I doubt he does, but it would be funny if he did. So yeah, this bishop's got to go somewhere. By the way, I was thinking, what do you think has prompted Hans to set up all these matches? Because he's doing this Hans Niemann versus the world. I don't think I've seen any other player do this sort of thing. And I'm just wondering, like, has any player in history done a similar sort of thing where he's drawing inspiration from it? Or is this just something that he's decided to do just for his own reason? Lawrence says it's maybe to make up for his lack of tournament invites. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, it must be very difficult as a chess player, especially for this high-level chess player. If suddenly you stop getting invited to tournaments, suddenly you lose your income. So that does make sense. Gary has done this before. I think there was a Gary Kasparov versus the world, but he didn't play. He didn't play against individual. He didn't do individual matches, right? Like this, or did he do it like this? Ah, that's okay. Maybe this is where he's drawn inspiration from. Because I was just thinking, like, the match format is very unique, and I was just wondering where it must have originated from. Yeah, absolutely. Someone in the chat asked if I've ever heard of Magnus Carlsen. Who's that? Kasparov played training matches against GMs. Yeah, because I've heard about Gary Kasparov versus the world. But I thought that was more like you know what Judith Polgar does sometimes, where she does the big, like, vote chess sort of matches. Ali Reza did that when he tried to call it. Oh, true, but that wasn't. He did more of like a 4-round round robin tournament, not just a one-on-one match. I feel like in chess, I've noticed that you don't really see these 1v1 matches unless it's the World Championship or something like that, or at least not 1v1 matches at this scale. Like sometimes there was. I think Ding Loren played a bunch of 1v1 matches or something like that when he was trying to qualify for the candidates. But sorry for cracking my knuckles. This is probably very loud. Like, you see players sometimes doing it when they're trying to qualify for events, but... Ah. Clash of Claims also. Okay, we're seeing a lot of 1v1 matches, actually. Okay. Alright. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, Albert. It was more like a... Kasparov's thing wasn't 1v1 matches. But maybe he has taken inspiration. Like, what if I played a top player from each place in the world? Now all we need to do is get Hans to Australia next. Have him play against Anton Smirnov or something like that. We don't have too many super high-rated players in Australia, but you know, we gotta get Hans to Australia to play this next leg of the tournament. All right. I mean, Nikita is only 37, which I think chess is different to other sports. There is an eval bar. It's just very tiny. It's on the right. I think you'll be able to notice it if it swings in one direction very severely. Wait, I'll point at it. Wait, there. On this side. Okay, there you go. It is there. In chess, you have a lot more longevity as a player. Like, when you think of other sports, you're retired by the time you're 30. But, oh, we have moves on the board. Sorry, I'm yapping. Okay, we have moves on the board. Great. We have bishop to f2 played. We have bishop to f2. I'm so sorry, it's not auto-updating when the moves come through, so sometimes I'm just missing it. So we have bishop to f2, which is pretty much what we expected, right? The bishop is moving away from the trade. This trade is not favorable, and if you play something else, then black is just going to capture the bishop on g3, and then put the knight on d6, and then it's controlling the c4 squares, a lot of light squares. Bishop e6 can just be avoided with king f8, king e7, and Hans would just have an extra pawn in the endgame. So the trade needs to be avoided. And here now, if I can draw my arrows right, this bishop on f2 targets this pawn that's all the way down on a7. So here, Hans retreats his bishop all the way back to b8. He's not playing something like b6 and making some big commitment to the pawn structure. And maybe something like b6 would just be bad, right? Okay, bishop d7. Ooh. And then you lose a pawn. Okay. So instead, bishop e8 is played, and he retreats back. Okay, let me just refresh. We can get all the times running. Okay. More moves on the board. Bishop e8 is played, and then Nikita gets his bishop down to the c8 square and starts to target from the back of the pawn chain. But now Hans has a nice way to defend, and he can just play knight to d6 and defend everything and attack the bishop. The knight d6 played, bishop e6. And then here, Hans decides to block here with the knight. Okay, because this trade is also bad for white. So basically any trade here is bad for white. White needs to keep their bishop pair at all costs. Because if they capture here, then they will have same color bishop, which does not have the same sort of draw rate as the opposite color bishop does, even if you have extra pawn. So then that knight is blocking here. And I think at some point, Hans will decide to bring his king out to f8. I think this will happen. Yeah, Hans is doing a really good job here. I think, yeah, now this bishop is on b8. It's defending everything. Now what white has to do is try and create some changes to the pawn structure. Oh yeah, bishop g3, yeah. Okay. That's true, that's true. With all of this. Yeah, okay, so if something like king to f8, bishop g3 could have become a threat again. Bishop could come back here and start targeting everything down here, this diagonal. This is what some people are saying in chat. Okay. So yes, knight f7, very good move. So here, the top two moves for white are both moves to try and change the pawn structure in a way that's going to break up Hans's pawns that are very far advanced and controlling the center of the position. And h4 is played, one of the best moves in the position. c4 was also an option, trying to create this trade here with the bishop would capture, and you get rid of that really strong d5 pawn in the center. So I feel like c4 will happen at some point, but first h4 is played, which I think this move is a bit annoying. If you take, then you're in trouble. This bishop is coming out to h4, targeting f6, and I think that white would probably have a bit of an advantage if you take. Maybe? Oh, apparently not. Apparently it's actually fine to take. I would just be worried about completely ruining my pawn structure over here, but you can just go king g7. Okay, interesting. And this is actually nicer for black. Okay, so you can take. Yeah, he's putting pressure on both the clock and the board. But yeah, h4 is a nice move, actually. So he can take this pawn. So now this is an option. Hans vs Magnus, who would you pick? I mean, I think it would be really nice to see Hans win in the match. I think most of us, or if not all of us, are going to agree in chat that it would be really great to see Hans win and prove himself that he can win, he can play good chess. I think it would be really nice. Okay. In terms of achievements, full stop, well, Magnus has been world champion, but you know, there's still a big future ahead for Hans. Okay. Yeah, that would have been amazing, Albert. Sorry, I'm reading YouTube chat at the moment. YouTube chat is being nice today, mostly. Okay. Yes, but I think that if Hans wins this match here, it would just be a really nice thing for Hans. Okay. So, oh yeah, absolutely not, Mills. It's things like Speed Chess Championship, obviously for players, you know, professional players like Hans, playing a online blitz tournament probably means almost nothing for them. Well, not almost nothing, but it doesn't mean a lot for them compared to classical results and that sort of thing. Classical is obviously at the top of the shelf where people seem to view their chess level and chess improvement, so it wouldn't make that big of a difference, but I think it would be nice in terms of just how people, I don't know, people would probably have some more respect and that sort of thing. Yeah, rare YouTube dub. Okay. So yes, you can take. You can also just ignore this push as well. So yeah, that's true. That's true. Faster time control is definitely what a lot of people would view as the future of chess. So put more value on it. But I think for now, a lot of people put a lot more emphasis on classical chess. So we can take, or we can avoid this, or we can also play h6 and reinforce the pawn structure. But it's really not necessary. You don't need to play h6. You don't need to. You can start moving the king, get out of the pin from the bishop. Maybe start heading over to the e8 square, try and centralize the king a little bit more. And yeah, here, there are a lot of options for Hans. This would just be about creating a concrete plan, like do I want to take or do I just ignore this? Playing king f8 could be a nice move because now there is really no pressure with the bishop pinning this knight here, so this bishop on e6 is really not doing a whole lot anymore. So this could be a nice way just to get out of the pin and also avoid any problems with them trying to put extra pressure on this pawn here. So maybe we will see king f8. Maybe we will see captures. h6 also possible, and b6 also something that Engine is recommending. b6, starting to get the pawns rolling on the queen side. So this could be another option also. basically, if takes here, we're just going to take back. We are just going to take back with this pawn. But this does allow this bishop to come into d4. And okay. Yeah, but then this is just saying black is winning here, so I'm not so sure about this. All right. So lots of possible moves here. Okay, they moved already, did they? Okay, let's see if there is a... I'll refresh. Oh yeah, it looks... Nope, we're still waiting. Okay, wait, nope, we do have a move. Great. Yeah, the moves are not updating. I'm really sorry about this, guys. I'll just have to refresh every few moves or something, every few minutes or something like that. So he does play h6, and maybe the reason is that he wants to recapture with the h pawn here, rather than being forced, if something like this, being forced to recapture with the f pawn. He wants to create this symmetrical pawn structure on this side. Kind of makes sense if you're thinking about how you want to head into the endgame, right? Like if h4, now if there is this trade, we have these pawns asymmetrical and then just one extra pawn over here on the queen side, compared to if we had the h and g pawns instead, then maybe white can pretend they're playing for something over on this side as well. So I think it's nice for Hans to do this. Okay, but what do we have now? What do we have now? Let me refresh. Is the stream delayed? No, it's not. It's just my board is terrible sometimes. Okay, so we do have this trade, and then we have c4. Another move to try and break up the pawns in the position. So h4 and now c4. So some really nice moves from Nikita, trying to basically liquidate all of the pawns in the position, trade everything down, and get pieces off the board. Okay. So c4 is played, and then obviously Hans is going to capture this because the threat is to take over here. So there's pretty much no other option for Hans other than to take. So we do see takes, and then b6 is played. We have the b pawn pushing forward, and now Hans just has this 3-on-2 on the queen side. And then these two pawns are, as I was saying, symmetrically placed over on the king side. Yeah, exactly, Jay. Yeah, this king needs to start moving in. So I think soon we will see something like king f8. And now, the good thing about b6 as well is that now bishop c5 check can never happen. Like before, it probably wasn't too much to be concerned about. But if you wanted to try and get your king out via f8 and e7, this bishop can come in, start giving checks, forcing you to move around, go to e8 or something like that. So now, as well as preparing maybe to push the pawns forward, creating a pawn storm, now there's no bishop c5. So now we might see something like king f8, king e7. The king can start making its way towards the center. After king f8, the knight will be unpinned. Maybe it can go to d6 or e5. It can get on one of these really strong squares in the center. We do have king e2 on the board. So both players will probably now try and centralize their king. So Nikita only has 28 minutes left to go. Okay. Hello, Danish is in chat. Hello. Yeah, this is Hans Farms the World. Okay. What is this? Okay. So, king to f8 is played. The king is now coming out, and as I was saying, the knight is now not pinned, and it can take one of these really nice squares in the center of the board, which would be very, very nice. And yeah, white really can't trade any of the pieces off. As soon as they lose their bishop pair, they lose their chances to draw this game. But the engine is saying exactly zeros right now. As long as white does not make a big mistake, it should be fine. They just need to sort of play something like a4, g4, basically trying to stop Hans from breaking forward, pushing pawns forward in the position. Okay. Very misleading. Absolutely. There is still a lot to happen in this position, so I think it will be interesting. Okay, I'm gonna drink some of my juice now. Hopefully I don't miss any more moves. I hope now it will update. I'll just keep refreshing if I need. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, thank you. Well, I think you're going to see me commentating today and tomorrow. So, I'm sorry, you will see me over and over, but not too much over and over. Just over and over once. Not over and over and over. Okay, we have another move. The bishop has moved from c4 to the d3 square. Okay, now Hans is minus 0.1. Basically winning, chat. Now, I wonder if there is any problem with just continuing to walk the king into the center. Like, we can start walking in with here. But, oh, bishop e5. Okay, bishop e5. Now, this is a nice move. This is better than my suggestion of just playing king e7. Boring moves, just walking the king in. Now, the b2 pawn is targeted. And also, it restricts this bishop over here. Yeah, we would maybe call this a two-result game, where it's either it's going to end in a draw, or hopefully Hans can pull out a win out of nowhere. But I'd say most likely it's going to end in a draw. All these 2600 players seem to know how to draw these positions. Okay. When is this whole thing going to be over? So this leg of Hans Niemann against the world goes until the 19th of August, but then from the 20th, there is another match, and I believe it all wraps up on the 24th. So I think it's all finishing on the 24th of August. And then after that, no more matches, I don't think. But yes. Maybe, I think he said, last time he was on the interview, he did say that if he gets if someone at the high level accepts an offer for a match, then he'll take it. And he seems to have no limit in terms of how much chess he can play without getting burnt out, because he just plays match after match after match and is fine. Yeah, last time I had a list of questions to ask Hans, and then I went to find the list and I couldn't find it. So that was very awkward. But it's alright. Okay. I had a list, and then I couldn't find my list. I was scrolling through and I was like, what am I gonna ask next? My mind went blank. I couldn't think of anything. Okay. And so one more game after this one. There are 2 games a day. We've had 2 moves come in now. Look at this position. We have b3 on the board. b3 on the board now, preparing maybe to push with a4 next. Just trying to take this space in the center. And then this knight comes up to d6. So beautiful knight in the middle of the board. That is exactly where we want it. A knight on d6. I think e6 and d6 are the dream squares to have a knight. Especially d6 if you're playing against a light square bishop. And e6 if you're playing against a dark square bishop. Okay. So we have a4 pushing forward. And now Hans plays c5. And now we have this chain of pawns on the dark squares here. And this makes it impossible for white to really push forward here. But also it does make it tricky for Hans to push forward with anything as well. Like, you're not going to push c4. But maybe you're just going to start to bring in the king and see what you can do there. Yes, I am from Australia. Okay. Let's see. All right. So c5 is now on the board, and Nikita is down to 26 minutes, but seems to be speeding up now. He probably still has to play quite carefully and accurately. But let's see. So, will the king start walking towards the center? And how will it start doing that? Maybe it can start infiltrating on the light squares, because obviously all the pawns are on the dark squares, so maybe start trying to walk in the king over this way. And if this bishop ever comes in for a check, you can trade. Play this endgame here. So yes, I think this is still an exciting game. It's maybe going to head towards a draw, but I think there is still a lot to be played out. And Hans has so much extra time, so at least here he can sort of do his best to win and not take too many risks, which is great. He has an extra pawn, a really nice position. He's brought all his pieces to great squares. This bishop is like the leader of the pieces, standing up in front of the pawns and controlling the openings in the position where white has all their pawns on light squares. And then this knight here in the center is absolutely great. So white now pushes the pawn to a5 and is just looking to trade these pawns off. So we'll look to take on b6 next and trade the pawns forward. The breakdancing performance, we won't talk about that. Okay. All right. So now Hans starts to finally to walk in with the king. It feels like the king has been stuck on the back rank for a very long time. Maybe not stuck, but it's been waiting on the back rank for a very long time. So finally, the king is coming forward, and it's on the e7 square. Yeah, what breakdancing? There was no breakdancing, guys. No breakdancing at the Olympics. We can't talk about it. You know what? We need chess at the Olympics. What is the consensus in chat of whether you think chess should be an Olympic sport? Australia has great breakdancers, and the ones we sent to the Olympics too. They have good breakdancers, and the ones they sent to the Olympics. Very surprised that it's not. Shouldn't be in the Olympics. Why do you think? I think with how many new sports or new things are being introduced to the Olympics, I'm actually surprised that chess has never been in contention. Chess has its own Olympiad. Well, a lot of the other sports have their, like for example, basketball, there is the, well, I feel like for basketball there is a lot of big tournaments also. Solo synchronized. Okay, so we now have a trade of pawns on b6. The pawn from a5 captures, and this pawn from a7 captures. And the engine is just giving zeros, zeros. It's not optimistic about this at all. What will be Hans's plan here, though? What will he try and do? Because I would be trying to bring the king in the center, but then I would be like, but then what? Do we start trying to push this pawn to b5, c4? What can we actually do with this pawn? I'm not sure. Very tricky to create a plan here. And maybe you just need to start walking in the king. Maybe you just need to start trying to infiltrate. Okay. The engine really likes bishop h7 for whatever reason. Bishop h7. What an interesting move. King e6. g4. King d5. Idea is to go back to g8 and check the king from this long diagonal. Feels a little bit crazy though. I doubt we'll see bishop h7 for some reason. But maybe we could. Okay. I mean, I think you could put chess in the Olympics, but do blitz or something like that. Have some commentary. Okay. Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? I think it would be interesting. Yeah, video games at the Olympics. If there's video games at the Olympics, we can have chess. Winter Olympics, yeah. Okay, bishop h7 is not the move that is on the board. So, yeah, now the plan I think will at least just to centralize the king as much as possible. And then maybe after this, we can at least try pushing with b5, c4, something like that. Try and push forward. Bishop h7. Is it really played? Has it really been played? I think it has. Okay, let me refresh. Wow, Bishop h7 played. I didn't think so. Okay, I should never underestimate GMs. They make these moves like Bishop h7. I'm like, what is it? Bishop h7. So good at chess. Okay. So here the bishop can access a lot of squares. So if the king starts to come this way, then the bishop can chime in and check from g8 on this long diagonal, protecting the b3 pawn and stopping the king from getting up to where it really wants to get up to and pushing these pawns up here on b5 and c4. So really in the long run will stop black from trying to push these pawns over here. So let's see. Knight b5 maybe. Knight b5 could be an idea. Knight d4 check. This could be an idea. Let's see what happens. Okay. All right. This could definitely be a move. So the king will move here. So this won't be a check. The king will move here. But I wonder... The problem is that now what white has done... So white has essentially tried to... Is this Star Wars translation? Okay. I'm just putting on like dramatic music in the background so we can get into the mood of chess. Okay. So all right. Because the endgame is epic. Yeah, exactly. So this king will come forward to d3. This king will come forward to d3 so that knight d4 will not be played with a check. I like this idea of knight b5. It's an interesting reroute. But I think Hans has played a move. So let me refresh again. Apologies. He plays king d7 instead. Just maybe now the king wants to go up via c6. This is interesting. The idea is go c6 and b5 with the king maybe. Maybe I can try and approach the pawn this way. Yeah, he's getting quite low on time, although experienced players are very, very good under this time pressure. Okay, we have king d3 played, trying to centralize both, the white king, and then king c6 is now on the board. Okay. All right. So king c6 on the board with some idea to try and bring the king up this way. So what will be played here by white? Maybe the bishop can go back to the g8 square. Can go here. But b5 is now going to be a threat in some point in the future to push b5. Maybe even push forward with b4. Not even c4. Push the pawns forward. And then at some point we try and trade off and get a pass pawn and push forward. This could be great. Okay. So let's see. But here, okay, here we have some moves again. And now bishop to e1 has been played. The bishop now controlling this diagonal. But it's more or less going to be a lot of shuffling around with the pieces. And then we have b5. Okay, so the pawns are pushing forward. I really like that b5 is being played. It's the right time for it to happen. b5 on the board, using this pawn majority. It might not lead to anything, but I think it is nice to at least get this played, get it on the board. But you don't need to rush. You don't need to play b4. You don't need to play c4. You can just kind of leave these pawns here, controlling a lot of squares, and then keep trying to maneuver the pieces and work out where they want to go. So if the bishop moves off of this diagonal and goes back to g8, now we can put a knight on f5. And we can think about going here or coming closer to the center, or even just shuffling back to d6, which would not be so fun. If they go there, maybe knight d4. We won't repeat. We'll go knight d4. And now this knight has moved from d6 to d4. It was good on d6, but now it's even further into enemy territory. So this could be really nice. Yeah, Hans is very good with it at endgames, that's for sure. Okay, let's go back to the current position though. Back to the current position. Okay. The engine is on depth 28, so it's not It's not the highest, but it's certainly enough for what we'll need. Okay. What is this? Let me check. Okay. Classical is the only artistic part of chess. You know, I think that classical really gives you the time to play moves you would never ever find in Blitz, which is why classical is stuck around and been the main time control for so long, because it's where you actually have enough time to be really creative, come up with amazing stuff that you would never see in a shorter game, and you don't even realize you can see it. Like when you're playing your first classical games, maybe you don't even realize that you can calculate so many moves, and you maybe surprise yourself by how much you can learn about the position by sitting there for a longer time. So I think it's really great that classical chess has stuck around and has been so popular for so long. But I do also understand why people who aren't really super into chess don't want to watch classical chess. So I see both sides of this. Blitz and Rapid are maybe more watchable for anyone who's just casually trying to watch, because otherwise it just gets super duper complicated, especially when the GMs are making all these super deep positional moves. It's a little bit tricky to watch sometimes, but classical chess is super interesting. What do you think Hans's chances are of becoming the next world champion? I would have no clue. I would have no clue on that. I think how he's playing chess within the next year will probably be a good indicator of where he's headed. He's obviously been having a really great few months in chess. We do have some moves on the board that came in a little set. The DGT board is a little bit dodgy today, but we do have Bishop G8, and now we have this move Knight F5. This is what we were just looking at here, with this idea to maybe bring the knight all the way up to D4, where it can be nice and strong. The bishop goes to F7 here, and now it can access maybe the E8 square, maybe the G6 square. Okay, and then we have king to C7. King to C7 here. Is king C7 so that bishop E8 won't come with a check? Is this the idea? I'm trying to work out what exactly king to C7 is doing. Or is it essentially just trying to like waste a tempo, or like waste a move? I'm trying to work out what king C7 does. Okay, because there's clearly some thought behind this. Nikita is down to 20 minutes. Okay. So the bishop goes up to E6. Yeah, maybe it's just to take the king off a light square. Retreat it this way. Okay. So now the bishop comes up to the E6 square and it's targeting this knight. So the knight needs to decide where to go. Knight D4 is no longer strong. And why is that? Because the bishop can just shuffle back to F7 and then you can't make a lot of progress. Okay. But we do have some moves on the board. Let me refresh. Let me refresh. I think we've had a move on the board, but I'm... Okay. So what do we have? We do have knight d4. Okay, knight d4 did actually happen, and bishop f7 also did happen. So now this is actually on the board right now. And now Hans plays king to d6. King to d6. So now the knight puts some pressure on this b3 pawn. So I think that's interesting. I think this is nice, having the knight in the center, and white has to keep shuffling. White has to keep shuffling, but now they can't move this bishop off this diagonal. And okay, so you could go back to g8, but now f5 becomes a problem. Okay, you can start pushing with the pawns over on the king side as well. Okay, so this gets very interesting. So what you need to do instead is leave this bishop exactly where it is, or it can access g6. It can control this long diagonal, stare at the pawn also. So the bishop needs to be exactly where it is. And now we need to use our other piece to basically waste some time if we're playing with white here. So shuffle over to... Well, maybe bishop t2 is also strong because it stops f5. Because f5 is now an idea pushing forward here. And bishop t2 will stop that. So maybe that is why they want bishop t2. Let's see. Okay. I'll just refresh again and make sure that I don't have this. Okay. Have some more moves on the board. Bishop g8 was played. Bishop g8 was played. This was the move I was looking at, and I was wondering why it didn't work. Why bishop g8 doesn't work. Apparently f5 is strong, but Hans doesn't find it. He plays knight to e6 instead, which also I like the look of. I like the look of this knight on e6. Cutting off the bishop. Also threatening to come into knight f4 with a check on the king, and also attacking this pawn that's on g2. So knight to f4 could be a really great idea. Here, what white is going to have to play is something like g4 to stop the pawn from being captured, but still the knight can come up to f4 and be strong over here. So let's see. I will just refresh again, make sure I'm not missing any moves, because I think we're now getting into the really intense part of the match. I'm still checking for if at any point we get the player cameras, but unfortunately it's looking less and less likely that we will have player cameras for today. How am I connected for Hans? I'm just doing commentary for him. I've done commentary in the past and I've always really enjoyed it, so I was lucky enough to be invited back and do some commentary here again. Okay. Yeah, I was also chosen because my name is Han and it sounds a lot like Hans. All right. Where's this tournament? This tournament is in London. It is in London. The exact location is the Fitzrovia Hotel in London, UK. So yes, this is a 5-day event. Some classical chess, some blitz chess, and also some rapid chess happening. A lot of chess happening over these next few days. It's going to be really exciting to watch. These matches have been super exciting. I think the Anish Giri one was super amazing to see him absolutely crush, or crush is maybe a harsh word, but really do well against Anish. That was very exciting. Okay. I really hope I will not miss any moves, but look, Nikita's time is starting to get lower and lower. He's done very well to not let time be an issue right now. But as some people were saying, time became an issue in his earlier game, in the first game. For Nikita, time was a big problem. And in this game, it could be at some point soon. Because what Hans will do is basically play this on forever. If you have an extra pawn, you can play this on for the rest of your days, basically, until you absolutely run out of moves. Bishop t2, a good move though. This does essentially stop this idea of checking the king. And here you can actually go for the trade. Even though we are trading off pieces, we will just have opposite colored bishops. After this trade here, white will have a light square bishop, black will have a dark square bishop, and white can just use this bishop to control all the light squares and stop the pawn from promoting. So we won't see knight f4. That will just go into something that they both know is going to be a draw, no matter what happens. Here, king to d5 is played instead. King to d5 is played instead, just bringing that king further forward, passing the move back to white to make, and also threatening this idea of c4. Yeah, this is a nice idea to try and push forward with c4. Even though he's pinning himself, yeah, c4 will be nice when it's played. I mean, it still is not going to cause any huge problems for white as long as they defend well. But I think once he gets this move in to push forward after a trade, the king will have to move back, maybe back to c2, behind the pawn. And then Hans will have a passed pawn. Whether he can do anything with it is going to be another question, but it's going to be a passed pawn and he can hold on to it quite well. He's not going to be losing it, so this will be nice. I expect we'll see c4 pretty soon, maybe without much thought. Although Hans has not had a very big think on pretty much any of the moves. He has still got over an hour on his clock, whereas Nikita is down to 17 minutes, but also maintaining a good time. Okay, we have c4 check, and now we'll get this trade. Okay. So we have this trade here. And now the king will have to move back behind the pawn. Okay. Well, the king can essentially go anywhere, but the two bishops work together nicely, always to stop any passed pawns. That's the nice thing about having two bishops. They control all the squares. They control all the color squares. They can always stop the pawns. This is still a draw. Still a draw, but it looks nice for Hans, absolutely. It looks nice. I expect the king will go back. Could go here. Could go here. Any of these squares. And yeah, the king is at the moment having to stay defending this knight over here, which could be a little bit annoying. So maybe at some point the king needs to go back, and then you create this idea to maybe bring the knight forward at some point. But really, at any point, you can't let this trade off you can't trade off the knight. You need to keep the knight on the board if you want to win. You want to trade off your bishop, not your knight. Because then you can win this endgame. White could easily mess up here. Absolutely, it's possible. It's possible. All right. Wait, do we have player cams? Wait, I see something on the camera. Let me... Ooh. We have a camera, chat. Okay. Bear with me 1 minute. We're about to get a camera on the screen. I will just have to make sure I do this all correctly. Ooh. Okay. Let me do this. Okay. I'm just going to quickly try and do this. Okay. Here we go. The first time in this match, we will have cameras. Now this is it doesn't really show us what they're playing, but at least we see something, you know. I'm gonna crop it a bit because I feel like we want to see as much chessboard as possible. I mean, we're not gonna be able to see the moves we're playing, but we get to see the back of his head. So it's better than nothing. All right, here we go. I've shrunk. Okay, we finally get a camera on. That's great. That's great. I believe the problem was yesterday that they just couldn't get everything working in time. Unfortunately, with tournaments like this, you try and get everything working and try and get the cameras on, but yeah, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So I think it was technical difficulties stop them from getting things set up. You want crop more? Okay, we'll try and... I don't want it to be like super fuzzy, but can crop it something like this. Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Now we see what's going on in there. That's great. So we can see, we may not see exactly what moves we're playing, but we're going to see if anything is happening, the expression of at least Hans's opponent. All right. So now Hans does play king to d6, unpinning himself and allowing the freedom for this knight to move if it wants to. Is a posture check? Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that we have the cameras working. That's good. That's going to be great. So we should have them working for the rest of the tournament. All goes well. Yes. Crop all the way in. Just like a zoomed in photo of his face. Okay. All right. I think this is just about as small as I can make my camera. But do I have... There's one thing I'm missing, which are the timers. So I'm just going to quickly grab them from the other overlay. I'm really sorry that I'm having to do this midstream, but I'm going to go back to this just to grab the clocks. Okay. We have this. We're almost there. I just realized that we were missing the clocks, which would be not so great. Okay. Here we go. We have everything now. We have clocks, we have camera, we have a commentator, we have a live board, we have everything you could ever want. Maybe. Not everything. But that's alright. Okay. So, back to the game now. Back to the game. We can now have everything sorted and we're back to the game. Perfect. What is the eval? It has been 0-0 for the last 20 moves or something like that. It has been 0-0 for the last 20 moves. Oh, let me crop this so you can also see the eval bar. There you go. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, everything you could want except a winning position for Hans, basically. But he's playing it the best that he can. I mean, you can't ask much more of this. Much more of him, sorry, is what I'm trying to say. You can't ask much more of Hans. He's trying his best to win this game, but I'm sure he knows that some games are unwinnable, unfortunately, and sometimes you just have to hope and pray your opponent makes a mistake. But as long as they play good moves, then there's not much you can do. Okay, it looks like Nikita has reached to make a move. I'm so happy that I can actually see this on the board now. Okay, the bishop moves up to f7. So now this is essentially a little bit of shuffling around here. The bishop might just go back and forwards from this f7 to g8 square, because what white really needs to do in this position is do nothing. Okay, king e7, a testing move. I like it. Remember, if we take here, then black is probably going to be winning because of the same color bishop. Okay, now they shuffle back. Oh, we might see a repetition. Are they repeating? Okay. They might just do this. But also Hans might just be repeating twice and seeing what he does. Because you know it's maybe one of those positions where if white doesn't repeat, they're going to be worse. But maybe try repeat twice. Okay, he pushes forward. He does not repeat. That's great. I think this is still really brave the way he's playing. But now actually white can capture this knight and this will result in a draw. Okay, the king can go to d3 and then you're going to shuffle around the bishop and target this pawn here. And it can never push forward. It can never push forward to c2. So this pawn, sorry, can never push forward to c2 because the king is controlling this square. So, all right, let's go back to the live position before I miss something. Not something you repeat? Yeah, you never know though. Sometimes people repeat at absolutely unexplainable times. So they repeated once. I was wondering whether they would repeat again, but let's see. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. So c3, the pawn is pushed forward, but now you can trade. Now you can trade. Always playing for the win. Yes, he has always been playing for the win, which is great. And it's really exciting to see when somebody is pushing very hard to try and win a game. So let's see what will happen here. So this is an option to take, but it's also still fine to just continue on with the same idea where you're just shuffling back and forth. Okay, is white to move, is not black to move. Here's a man bun. Well, Nepo also had a man bun. He's also scary. So let's see what is possible here. Can you keep shuffling back and forth? I wonder what happens if you just go back to g8. Okay, it is ever so slightly better for black, but not enough to win, I don't think. Okay. So you can go knight f4 here. And then if takes, okay, white will draw this. So I think this is still a draw, so you can still just shuffle. You can actually still shuffle. Oh, you hear someone, I'm down here. I'm the commentator in the corner. Can the black king go around the... Are you wondering if the black king can start trying to walk around this way? I think the problem is with these bishops is that they can really use, they can very well, control a lot of squares. Like if the bishop ever comes back here, then it stops you from coming up to the h4 square, and this bishop over here can stop you from getting to h5. So usually what the bishops are going to do is just cut off an entire diagonal and stop you from infiltrating. Even something like g4 could be played. If the king decides it wants to start walking over here, trying to attack the pawn over there, maybe white just destroys all the fun at some point and plays g4. You need to be careful about when you do play it, but you probably could just do this and stop the king from getting in. Okay. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you. Chair is slightly vibrating. I'm probably like jumping around. Okay. Let's see it. We do have g3 on the board. We have g3 on the board. And the idea is that if takes, we can capture this pawn over on g3. So, okay. But this happens. We do have takes. Okay, this is fizzling out a little bit. We've had another trade of pawns. And I think white will obviously recapture. Hans can still play it on for a win if he wants to. All right. This would be a good time to burn some time just to annoy your opponent. Oh yeah, Hans could take a 40-minute nap right now and still have more time than his opponent actually. He's got a lot of time on the clock, but he does have a game to play later. So I think that I don't think Hans will be playing any, you know, mind games or that sort of thing here. Okay, we have bishop e6 first, trading. Okay, so this shows white really wants to be absolutely sure. He's going into the draw, making as many simplifications as possible. We have takes, and then the king takes. So we have 2 pawns versus 1 over here. And while it may look like there is winning chances, here, unfortunately, there is not a lot that you could do. So yeah, what will you try to do with your Hans? What will you try to do? Maybe you can try... I think if you check the king, they just go towards the pawn. So basically what white is going to do is they're going to get over to this side of the board and then use the bishop and their pawn, trade off the pawns at some point. Like, there's no way to create a passed pawn, unfortunately. Like f5, and then, well, you can create a passed pawn, but you just trade down the pawns, and then this bishop can just sacrifice itself at any point. Sorry, I've drawn a million arrows, but if you go like here, if you go here and here, wait, did they agree to a draw? Oh, they agreed to a draw. Okay. I'm sorry, but yeah, basically the story is you can't make a you can't promote a pot over here. The bishop is always going to stop you, and there's nothing you can do. But we have a draw. I have a draw. I'm not a mod over in the YouTube chat, so basically people can just run free there and do what they like, I guess. I'm not a mod over there, so I cannot ban anyone. I'm a mod in Twitch chat though, so okay. But all right, we have a win. Not a win, a draw. A draw. Okay, we have a draw to start off with today. And there is going to be 2 games today. So we will have a game that starts in about 4 hours from now. That will be the second game of the day. And in that game, Hans is going to have the white pieces. Yesterday, he was able to get a nice position with the white pieces, but wasn't able to get a win. So let's see if today he does manage to get a win. That would be super awesome. That would be super awesome. I think they're going to chat. I'm not sure. I will quickly check whether he's planning to come on to an interview, but I think with just each game like this, I don't think he comes on for an interview. I will quickly check. Mind my typing noises. I might mute myself while I do this because my typing is very loud. I'll quickly check whether he usually does this, but I don't think that he usually comes on for interviews just in between games. But I'll check. I'll just make sure. Don't go anywhere yet. Okay, so I think it's in just over 3 hours. Oh, I thought it started at 2 a.m. my time and it's 9:45 here. So for some reason, I thought it started at 2 a.m. my time. But I might be completely wrong. Oh, that would be nice. If it starts at 1 a.m. my time, that's a little better. I can stay for a bit longer. Okay. It's in 3 hours, 15 minutes. Oh, that's great. That means I can stay for commentary longer. Some people will be happy about that. Some people won't. But I will have a co-host with me. For the next round. So her name is Agne. She will be on for the next round, joining me. She's about 1900 FIDE. And she is super awesome, so I'm really excited for that. I will probably be here for half of the round maybe, and then she will cover the rest. So yeah, I really appreciate everybody coming in and watching, supporting Hans. You guys will meet the next commentator for the next round, and I believe he is not coming on for an interview here. Let's see. Okay. Game has finished. So, thank you everybody for watching today. I will see some of you guys in about 3 hours from now where we see the second round of the day. Hans will have the white pieces. Thank you so much everybody for watching. I will try and improve my analysis and commentary skills with each round. I'm still practicing and learning. This is I've not done many big commentary things before, so I appreciate you guys being patient and supportive. I hope to see a lot of you guys coming in and supporting Hans for the next round, and I'll see you guys later.